All right, let's move on to a little baseball, shall we? Madison Bumgarner and the Giants outdueled Noah Syndergaard in the Mets to win the NL wildcard game and advance to face the Cubs in the NLDS. It was Bumgarner's third career postseason shutout. He's the first pitcher in postseason history to throw multiple shutouts in a winner-take-all game. So one club is seeking its first World Series in 108 years, and another seeking its fourth since 2010. The Cubs and Giants get the NLDS underway Friday night at Wrigley. Max, how worried should Cubs fans be about the Giants?
Really worried. And Theo Epstein's done a great job in Chicago, like did a great job in Boston. Once upon a time, I thought that he was that they hired Bill James in Boston, and that's the reason they suddenly were different than everybody else. I predicted at the time that they would win 3 of the next 10 World Series, and I got it right on the 10th year on Around the Horn originally when they hired Bill James, and in fact didn't give Theo Epstein enough credit. He's done, obviously, he's a brilliant head of baseball.
Yes, he is.
However, and they are young and athletic where they need to be, and they have hard-throwing, strikeout pitchers, and they even acquired Aroldis Chapman to shore up that bullpen. All that's great, but here's the thing about the San Francisco Giants and Brian Sabean, who, by the way, was the head of Yankees scouting when they got Bernie Williams and Derek Jeter and Andy Pettitte and Jorge Posada and all those core guys, and then went to the Giants and has done a tremendous job over there. And they talk about Buster Posey and different core pieces that he has, but it comes down to Bumgarner. Here's the thing. Bumgarner has joined Curt Schilling, El Duque, Fernando Valenzuela, and a couple others as, like, say, the last 35 years, a different kind of postseason pitcher. This is not a guy like a Jack Morris or an Andy Pettitte who just remains his normal, excellent self in the postseason, sometimes does well, sometimes not as well. This is a guy who, like the first group of guys I mentioned, as good as he is in the regular season, seems to consistently get better in the playoffs. Now, why is that significant? You say, well, he just pitched. He's going to miss some starts here. Cueto's going to start, who had a great bounce-back year with San Francisco, obviously a threat to beat whoever he's matched up against. Samardzija, who they picked up, not exactly off the scrap heap, but they gave him a $90 million contract when it looked like maybe he was on the downside of his career a little bit, maybe past his peak. His fastball is sitting in the mid-90s. That's really important in the postseason. You want hard throwers who miss bats. So they have a chance. They're going to be in those first 2 games. Then you get Bumgarner because you have travel days in a best-of-5 series. Remember, best of 7, you're more likely to get a result of the better team winning. Best of 5, less likely to get the better team necessarily winning. This is the nature of baseball. Smaller sample sizes, you have what's called greater deviation from the mean, from what you would expect to happen. So Bumgarner pitches game 3. Then you have Cueto and Samardzija again. So you say, well, Bumgarner only gets 1 start. Let's not forget the last time they won the World Series, Bumgarner had like 5 innings out of the bullpen.
On 2 days rest.
On 2 days rest, 5 innings. He has done what Clayton Kershaw hasn't been able to do for the Dodgers. So now you have a situation where with Samardzija, who might pitch very well, I mean, as I said, he's throwing hard. He pitches game 5, and maybe he has a long, dominant game, but even if he doesn't, you can have a short leash with him, yank him, and put the guy on who's done it before, who's consistently so far done it in his excellent career. The Cubs have their work cut out for them, and Cubs fans should absolutely be nervous here.
They should be nervous, but at the same time, this is big time. They won 103 games. When you look at their pitching staff, you got Lester, you got Arrieta, you got Hendricks, you got Hammer, you got Lackey. They can get it done. Now, that's going to be pivotal, those first 2 games, make no mistake about it. And then you got Bumgarner going up against Arrieta in game 3. But I'm thinking about Rizzo. I'm thinking about Chris Bryant. I'm thinking about Addison Russell and these boys, the way that they've been playing. Listen, Madden is one of the most exceptional managers in the game of baseball. If the Cubs and Cubs fan base have anything to worry about, it's the tradition, it's the curse, it's the fact that they have never had more pressure on them than they do this year.
Right.
This year right here, we're looking at the Cubs. They are clearly the best team in baseball. There is no excuse for them to lose. They must win. If they don't win this year, you're going to have people who are convinced the curse is, not that they're not already convinced that the curse is real, but they're going to believe the curse is real. It is never going away. They are going to cry their hearts out, wondering whether or not they'll ever win again, because if you've got Epstein and you've got Madden, and then you look at the young studs that they have, I mean, we got here, look at this, man. We've got Rizzo, he's batting .292. 32 homers, 109 RBIs. We've got Bryant, .292 as well, 39 homers, 102 RBIs. Addison Russell's 21 home runs, even though he's got a .238 batting average. But if you look down the list, 292, 272, 292, 276, those kind of things. And then you look at the pitching. I don't care what San Francisco has. To me, it's Bumgarner or bust. If this man can't get, if you could possibly get to a Game 5. It all depends on what happens in those first two games, because San Francisco has got to split. And by the way, I don't underestimate Posey, because Buster Posey, let me tell you something about him.
He's a future Hall of Famer, I think.
He's a future Hall of Famer. I think so, too. When you're talking about the sport of baseball, everyone looks at the pitcher, and they never attach the level of success to a catcher. When you think about Yadier Molina, think about the pitchers that have looked while he's catching behind. This guy, I mean, when you have a catcher who knows what he's doing, knows how to call a game, knows how to keep you composed and under control. I think Posey's an X factor here because of how he can mess with, how he could work with Cueto and those other guys. But I do believe, I really, really do believe, that when it comes to the Cubs, I think destiny has something to do with this. Those first two games are going to be pivotal. And here's the thing. Somehow, some way, somebody's got to reverse stuff on San Francisco. Let's think about why they lost last night. Syndergaard, Thor, for the New York Mets was absolutely sensational. 7 scoreless, and it's just 2 hits, 11 strikeouts. He was the man. I never, ever, Max, never liked Familia. Never liked him. I didn't like him when he blew 3 games last year. I never liked him because listen, he threw the sinker last night and missed the spot. It was supposed to be low and inside. It missed the spot. He got smacked out of there, okay? Familia is not reliable. I don't give a damn about his 51 saves. It blew 6, but I don't give a damn about the 51 saves. I've never liked him in big moments. I don't trust him because control is always an issue with him. Syndergaard had to get out of there. Why he had to get out of there? Because San Francisco, they're masters at working the count, making you work, continuing, increasing your pitch count. And as a result, they got to get you out of there. Their whole goal was to get beyond Syndergaard. And I think with the Cubs, they've got to reverse it and do the same thing against San Fran, and particularly Bumgarner.
Especially since San Francisco, their soft spot is the bullpen. I mean, the Cubs addressed that. The Cubs gave up real prospects to the Yankees, real prospects, to get Aroldis Chapman. Yeah. Right? They recognized the one thing here, it's a high leverage moment in the history of our franchise, and the one thing we really need to shore up is the bullpen, and they got the best available guy and had to pay a king's ransom for it. But you mentioned Buster Posey. It's a great point. The fact that he's behind the plate helping the pitching staff. You look at Yadier Molina and a lot of great, even the Yankees dynasties with Yogi Berra. It's always a guy who knows how to handle the pitchers. You know, Johnny Bench, whoever you want to talk about. But like a lot of those guys, Molina later in his career, Buster Posey hits in the middle of the lineup. And when you got a guy who can hit and play a defensive position, that's an enormous strategic advantage. Because it's hard to find guys who play catcher, shortstop, second base, center field, who can hit like Buster Posey. That's a tremendous advantage. But you mentioned the Cubs offense. What you find in the postseason, what the sabermetricians have found, and the guys who crunch the numbers have found. That's right.
Okay.
What they have found is the same thing. They've corroborated conventional wisdom about the postseason. You know how everyone always said, well, pitching and defense wins in the postseason. I was always thinking, well, what's the difference between if hitting also wins in the regular season, why wouldn't it win in the postseason too? But actually, they found that that's true. What wins in the postseason is defense and pitchers who miss bats. So when you talk about the RB, the guys, the productive middle of the order bats playing first base and third base, that is unlikely to be where this series is decided.
The sabermetrics and all of these guys notwithstanding.
Scouts say the same stuff.
Oh, no, I'm not poo-pooing it, especially with baseball, because I understand it's more applicable with baseball than it is with any other sport. What I'm saying to you is, let's not forget the human element here. Pressure matters. Pressure matters. And there has never been a Cubs franchise under more pressure than this one this year. And you also got to remember something, too. This is what it really comes down to, as I reiterated earlier. It's really simple. You got to win the first 2 games if you're the Cubs. You got to win the first 2 games. Because if you even split and they go back to San Fran and it's 1-1 with Bumgarner, okay, we're having the ball, we got problems. And not only that, when you go back, whether it's 2-0 or 1-1 and Bumgarner's on the hill, it's not enough just to beat him. okay, you got to make sure you get it. You got to work that man. You got to make.
I'm glad you brought up pressure.
Bochy's got to make sure. I'm saying they got to make sure that Bochy gets him out of there, because if his pitch count is low,
right,
he's available for Game 5.
Yep.
Now you got problems.
Absolutely, got to try to get to that San Francisco bullpen. Work the count. Don't be swinging early in the count. Although against right-handers, sometimes I think that's the best thing to do against Bumgarner. But you got to try to work the count. I'm glad you brought up pressure, because part of what Theo Epstein's been very good at is not simply assembling a team. And sabermetrics, by the way, doesn't just mean crunching numbers. It means a rational approach to baseball analysis.
Yeah, we know.
You incorporate scouts. You
Professor
incorporate
Kellerman,
all that
we
stuff.
know that. Go ahead.
I'm not sure you do.
I do know.
Okay, well, I'm glad.
do know.
Then I'm explaining it to the audience.
Bores me. So I don't want to bore audience with sabermetrics.
I know saber-tooth
Molly, sabermetrics is also, you incorporate scouting, you incorporate rational analysis, and Theo Epstein has done a great job of that. He did it with the Red Sox. Maybe he's done it with the Cubs. We'll see. But getting the kinds of guys who perform under pressure, you know, there's a whole debate going on about whether clutch hitting is a myth or not, and that debate goes on. But clutch pitching exists. There's evidence. Mariano Rivera, I mentioned Curt Schilling. And when Theo Epstein took over the Red Sox, Curt Schilling's personality and leading that staff and the consistent ability to elevate under pressure is probably the #1 reason they were able to win in 04. The question is, who on this Cubs staff is that guy in a short series?
Last point, you missed this. The Cubs are the ones feeling the pressure. What you just pointed out, San Francisco has no pressure.
Yeah.
Not just because they've won 3 world championships in 5 years, but because they're used to this. This doesn't faze them.
But the Red Sox were in the same position the Cubs are now. They hadn't won forever.
Yeah, I understand that. But that doesn't mean these Cubs, because remember, these Cubs were in the postseason last year and folded against the Mets. So they have
same thing with the Red Sox in 04. They folded against the Yankees in 03.
I'm saying they've yet to prove it, Max. San Francisco has proven.
Just like the Yankees had. That's what I'm saying.
They've yet to prove it.
The Cubs haven't gotten over the hump the way the Red Sox didn't, because they didn't have a Curt Schilling.
Yes.
Who is Curt Schilling on the Cubs?
Thank you for explaining the sabermetrics. Appreciate that.
Who's Bumgarner on the Cubs?
I want to see the Cubbies get it done for sweet home Chicago.
That's
right. Don't have it. I'm saying someone has to emerge.
Arguing with me about agreeing with
the association, your sweet spot. Up next.
First Take is presented by Bass Pro Shops.
Let's get it cracking. Let's start the session. March Lynch, the competition, balls by that action. You can never debate it. This is actual fact. Stephen A. and Max Scale said they say it's a rap. I'm like, say what? Say what? What's up with all my haters? I'm a ball when I perform. So my jersey's in the air. I'm allergic to my haters. Every morning I prepare. Lot of clothes I can wear just like them Oregon players. Yeah, quack, quack. What it do? Rap like it's nothing to it. Matter of fact, you can ask hard and I'm cooking too. Base guard cooking too. Nah, look at you. Great mind. They embrace mine like a crooked tooth. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, you got me.